Today we are out in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. We are about, I don't know, 30 miles east of Greeley, Colorado, on this nice, beautiful, sunny day. But it is cold. It's pretty chilly. It's, I don't know, right around upper 30s. It's a lot more beautiful than it looks compared to how it feels, how cold it is. I had to pull off the side of the road and warm up, man, because my hands, I need to get new gloves if I'm going to be riding out here in the winter. But today we have a very cool video for you. Just about 3 miles this way is an old deserted ghost town. Well, it's not really a ghost town anymore. It's just a couple of old buildings that are still standing. It used to be a old farming community back in the early 1900s, and now it's a complete ghost town. So I decided to come out here and go check it out. We're gonna hop on, head to the town, and I'll explain the history behind this deserted ghost town that is no longer there. It's quite cool. So join me and hopefully we have some fun today. I believe this is it. Yeah, here we are. This is the last remaining structures of the town called Dearfield, Colorado. This town has been deserted for many decades. We'll come over here. And I'll show you this sign here. Hopefully the glare's not too bad, but I'll read it real quick. Dearfield, Colorado. Colorado entrepreneur and messenger for the three governors, Mr. Oliver Jackson, filed a desert claim to create the African-American agriculture colony of Deerfield in May 1910. Dr. Joseph Westbrook of Denver proclaimed at an organizational meeting in 1909 that the fields will be very dear to us, thus giving the community its name. The first settlers moved here in 1911, and by 1920 Deerfield had more than 200 residents, 2 churches, a school, and a restaurant, and plans to build a canning factory and college. By the time residents and agriculture experts seriously noticed the diminishing rainfall, eastern Weld County was part of the Dust Bowl, and Deerfield never recovered. In 1946, Deerfield had a population of 1. Today, Deerfield remains a symbol of Western pride and empowerment for many African Americans. In that spirit, this historical marker has been donated by Anadarko Petroleum Corporation and the Greeley Monument Works, September 26, 2010. So yeah, here we are, Dearfield, Colorado. They're trying to preserve this site because of its history. So yeah, apparently Oliver Jackson I wish there were ways of getting in here. They fenced these buildings off completely. Oliver Jackson was this successful businessman from Boulder, Colorado. And he moved out here in 1910 and founded this area and wanted to build a black community, a black farming community out here. And he moved out here, he advertised, and a lot of African Americans came out here and started settling this land, started growing crops, wheat, and all this other stuff, and the community was kind of successful in the 1920s. Look, that door's open. You know, by the 1920s, there's about 200, maybe even 300 residents out here farming this land, farming all this land out here. And they had 2 churches, like that sign said. They had a lot more buildings than this, but these are the remaining 3 buildings that still stand. And then by the 1930s, the Dust Bowl came, and a huge drought covered this whole entire area. They couldn't get any water, and it was falling apart, and all the residents were moving out. And heading towards Denver and other communities, Greeley, and Fort Collins, and Boulder. So, and then by the 1940s, I think Oliver Jackson was still here, the guy who founded Dearfield. But man, look at this. It is just falling apart. It's an old structure. But yeah, by the 1940s, Oliver Jackson was still here, but there was only a handful of residents still here. And he tried to re-advertise it as a tourist destination, but no one came out here. So the Dust Bowl in the 30s just decimated this community. And Oliver Jackson died, I believe, in 1946, somewhere in the 1940s. People are graffitiing it. That's sad. And then the last remaining resident of Deerfield passed away in the 1970s. I said that on that sign. I can't remember the date. Oh, that kind of scared me. I don't really want to walk in here because the structure looks very weak. So I'll kind of stick my camera in here. So yeah, the old deserted town of Dearfield, Colorado. The last 3 remaining structures of this community that began in the 1910s and started blossoming in the 1920s. An all-black community, African-American community that Oliver Jackson founded, and they came out here and were working hard and trying to make this community flourish, and it started growing. Like I said, between 200 and 300 people were here in the 1920s, 1925s, but then the Dust Bowl came and just wiped out everything. Big old drought. They couldn't get any water. They didn't own any water rights from the Platte River, which is down that way. And unfortunately, people started moving out, and the community just started falling apart. I came back over on this side, but yeah, so apparently from the research I did, this was Oliver Jackson's house. This is where he lived. So out of the last 3 remaining buildings, so this was Oliver Jackson's house. This was the gas station and restaurant right here, and then that one building that we kind of toured around, that was all that we kind of were able to actually look in, that one right there in the back corner. I think that was a barn or something, or maybe even another house slash barn, kind of a part of this gas station here. Gas station slash restaurant. But that's it. That's all that remains of this community. We'll come over here and check this out. I mean, hopefully they can get some people in here and kind of restore this somehow, some way. You know, because it's got a great history to it, a great historical story to it. But yeah, I mean, this building is just decimated. Yeah, so apparently this was Oliver Jackson's house. Oliver Jackson was a successful businessman in Boulder, and made some money and really wanted a predominantly black community come out here, work in the lands, and you know, where maybe he could run a banking operation and loan some money and have other African Americans come out here and farm the land and be successful. And but the Dust Bowl came in and wiped everything out. So whew, there was some type of animal making me jumpy. I mean, but we are way out in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, we're 30 minutes east of Greeley, Colorado, which is way that way. It's cold and the wind's starting to pick up. But yeah, I mean, here it is. The ghost town of Dearfield, Colorado. Founded in 1910, or so I guess by 1940 there was only approximately around 12 people living here. Oliver Jackson died in 1948. And then the last resident was here until sometime in the 1970s. But yeah, there it is. Dearfield, Colorado, a lot of history here. Unfortunately, the Dust Bowl came and the drought came and ended this community. Had the Dust Bowl not come, you know, who knows, maybe this community would have thrived. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Seeing an old historic ghost town. You know, I love coming out here and seeing old historical sites like that. History is definitely one of my favorite subjects. I'm always reading about history and exploring. That's why I love coming out here. I just love exploring and learning about old historical sites like that. Here, we're gonna make one final pit stop. This is Linn Grove Cemetery. This is where Oliver Jackson is buried, the guy who had founded Deerfield. His grave's out here, so we're gonna see if it's open and come in here and find his grave, and we'll end the video. Here we are at Linn Grove Cemetery. Quite an amazing cemetery. Apparently they have a bunch of big names. I went into the office and was talking to the guy for a minute. That office right there, so I can get pointed in the right direction of where Oliver Jackson's headstone is at. And he's like, yeah, they have a lot of big names. I may have to come back here one day. Since my battery's running low on my GoPro, I don't have a whole lot of time to make any more video. But yeah, he said there's a lot of old famous names out here, including one family that basically founded Greeley and a whole bunch of other old historical sites out here. So it's quite an amazing cemetery. Hopefully you guys can see all this. There's a ton of headstones out here, a lot of cool ones. I haven't seen a cemetery quite like this in some time now. Alright, I think we're getting close. Of course, I parked my motorcycle clear on the opposite side of this huge cemetery, and I had to come walking on the far side. So it's gonna be somewhere along here. I mean, look at this place. I know this is gonna be kind of on the longer video, but I mean, man, this place is quite the cemetery. When I went in there, I was like, yeah, I'm looking for Oliver Jackson. He's like, O.T. Jackson? The Dearfield guy. He's like, oh yeah, here, let me show you. He pretty much knew right where it was at. He's like, what are you doing why do you want his? It's like, well, I'm kind of shooting a video on YouTube, and he's quite the cool guy. He's like, oh yeah, just, you know, be careful out there. So let's see if I can find it. Okay, we finally found it. Took me a minute. I had to turn off the GoPro again, but we finally found it. Here it is. Jackson, Minerva J, Oliver T, founders of Dearfield Town Site and Settlement, 1910. Pretty amazing. Pretty cool. This place is just mind-boggling. I never knew this place existed out here. One final look. Alright, but yeah, guys, I'm heading back to my bike. There she is down there. I don't know if you can see it, but I hope you enjoyed that. You know, it's just amazing the kind of history and kind of stories that you can find. You know, you go off the beaten path, take your motorcycle, do a little bit of exploring, and that kind of history that's just out here, waiting for it to be told, waiting for the story to get out there somehow. You just keep following the story a little bit, and you know, the story will lead you to a place like this. You know, like I said, the guy inside was really cool. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of history out here, you know, just do a bunch of research and go to the library, and who knows what you can find. A lot of famous people sitting here in this cemetery, he said. You know, they all have some type of story that can be told. But yeah, it's quite amazing. I was doing some research, like I said, a little while back, and you know, I just wanted to go out there and check that place out. You know, with all the history in America, and this one guy from Boulder, African American, wanted to start a community, and he did really good for himself. You know, it's just unfortunate series of events to have the Dust Bowl come in and just destroy the community that you worked so hard at putting together. So, but yeah, just thought I'd make a video, probably a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but sun is going down, it's getting cold, and I got to get home. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you know, definitely let me know in the comments below. And if not, I hope you enjoyed once again, and until the next video, take care everyone. Bye.